Next talk is from Mikel Larreategi.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay, thank you. And the title is How We Deploy Cookieplone-based projects. Sounds interesting.
Yes, so, hello everyone, and thank you for coming to this talk. During the talk, the objective is to explain how we currently deploy Plone projects and Volto projects that we bootstrap using Cookieplone templates, and also how we have reached this point, because I have talked about this in the past. First, I want to make a little survey. Does the people in this room currently bootstrap their project using Cookieplone? Okay. And using build-out? Wow, like half, more or less. And with any other tool? Using what? You build by scratch the scripts and so on? No? Okay. Okay, so back in 2022 in Namur, I gave a talk explaining how we were deploying at that time Volto sites. In this URL you have the talk if you want to see it again. At that time we had recently launched our first Volto sites, and at that time we were not in the Docker world yet. So I wanted to explain which was our approach. We were using quite a similar approach like we were doing with build-out. We had very different different repositories for the Volto add-on, for the Volto front-end project, for the build-out, for the back-end add-on, and we were using, and currently also we are using GitLab CI/CD. So we built this pipeline that was releasing the Volto add-on into a private NPM repository, and then this was built in a Volto front-end project that was compiled in CI/CD and then STP'd to the server. This worked for some time, but yeah, you know that everything changes. And last year, or at the beginning of last year, we started seeing Cookieplone everywhere. No.
Send my mom.
Yeah. I try to regularly follow Plone repositories on GitHub, and I was seeing that Erico was working on something that he was calling Cookieplone, and okay, I started seeing like okay, they are preparing something new for the initial bootstrap of the project. We were quite happy at that moment with build-out. We even convinced our Django developers, our Django colleagues, to use build-out. So yeah, that was like 15 years ago, but they keep using build-out. But it looked like something new was coming, and we wanted to be there, at least to learn which was the good practice then. No. More or less at the same time, we had an intern, a university intern, Unai, he's called Unai, and he was doing an internship about automatic testing scenarios for our different projects, and he was saying that now everyone is in Docker, so he was seeing Docker everywhere. And this was a bit linked with the work that Erico was doing in Cookieplone. Erico and others were doing in Cookieplone, because that was going in the Docker direction too. So after the initial frustration of having to change the toolchain again, because we have gone through all of those technologies to build our projects and deploy them, and recipes and distribute hell and setup tools and underscore and yeah, everything. We saw something positive in the Cookieplone a structure that was that it was using UV. This, I think, that changed the paradigm completely for us, because we, in the past, if running a build-out for the first time was taking like 20 minutes, now it was taking 5 seconds. So this was like the light that guided us to, okay, we have to do something else, leave build-out or leave our old technologies and start using Cookieplone. So welcome to the Cookieplone world. A big thank you to all the contributors to Cookieplone, Rico for starting, and David for being always there to answer everything. So if you haven't used Cookieplone before, it's a command. You can run UVX Cookieplone, and you get a screen like the one in the big screen, that you can select a different project, a different kind of project. You can select among Volto project, Classic UI project, backend add-on, frontend add-on, and even a documentation scaffold for Plone projects. And since last week, also a 7 add-on. So you just select the one you want, and you get the full scaffold for a project. The main difference with our previous approach is that now everything is in a single repository. Nowadays it's called monorepo, because monorepo is the new cool guy, and everything is a monorepo now. Okay, so in the same repository we have the front end, we have the back end, we have the front end add-on, the back end add-on, the Docker files, the deployment configuration, and everything. You have several make files, both in the root of the repository and also in each of the front end and back end folders. And it helps you a lot to build and start all the development process of a Plone site. But what about the deployment of this? Because one thing is to develop and start to develop a new project, but another thing is to deploy it in your servers. Cookieplone provides a DevOps folder where you can get ready-to-use Ansible recipes, for instance, that you can use to prepare your servers. You need to install Docker, you need to create your users, create the Docker Swarm configuration, the secrets, the SSH keys, the varnish configuration files, whatever you need. And all the readmes and all the configuration that you can use to deploy a Cookieplone-based project using GitHub Actions. So we started looking at this, and again, we have to start over again, because we already have, our sysadmins have already a set of Ansible configuration files or whatever tool they use to prepare our servers, to configure the firewall rules, the Docker thing, or whatever. So it was like, okay, this doesn't exactly fit what we do, but it can help us somehow. So we started thinking that we had to modify a bit the configuration that Cookieplone templates created for us. So we need to provide our own configuration on top of that, and to be able to use it efficiently and to align with other principles that our company uses. Because we also do on-call support. All developers do an on-call support for a week, so we have to provide a consistent way to manage our projects independent of the technology we use. So we need to do some work on integrating everything. So our initial idea was, okay, let's fork the Cookieplone templates repository, provide our own templates, because Cookieplone can be run using an environment variable pointing to a repository you want, and you can work with that. So that was our initial idea. We forked the repository, we made some changes there, and we can run, instead of running UVX Cookieplone, we can run Cookieplone repository pointing to our repository, and then UVX Cookieplone, and Cookieplone will take all the templates from there. This is the approach that I explained in the World Plone Day talk earlier this year. The approach was easy because we just have to maintain the template in a repository and then run the command. But as we are providing some big changes, and as at that time the Cookieplone repository was changing a lot, this was a bit of hard work, because we wanted to have all the latest changes in the Cookieplone templates, but at the same time provide our own configuration that sometimes was conflicting, and having to maintain this in a different repository was like a big thing to do. So we thought that we had to find some other another way to do this, and during the Beethoven sprint, I talked a lot with Mike, that we were talking about the Plone CLI, the Bob templates, you know, the tooling that helps you to create Plone backend add-ons, and he showed me a project called Copier, which is like yet another tool to create templates for everything. Instead of using Cookie Cutter or Cookieplone templates or whatever, he was testing Copier for some of their projects, and we thought that could be a way to provide our additional features. So my idea with using Copier was to let's create the basics for our projects using Cookieplone, and then run a Copier script that modifies everything we want to provide our standards. So after checking that, we created a Copier template that provides our custom configuration. In this GitHub repository, you can find our tool. It provides a deploy folder with all the deployment configuration that our sysadmins have decided, and also some scripts that slightly modify the template provided by Cookieplone in order to fill the gaps that we want. Those gaps are, for instance, when you use Cookieplone, the Docker images names are written in those makefiles, but if you use some other tooling, like we are using GitLab, for instance, the image names of Docker images in GitLab are slightly different to the ones provided by Cookieplone, so we need to modify them. Or we'd like to provide a different soap.ini file for the backend image, because we don't want to have the access log of SOAP, for instance. But there are some other modifications too. So our steps now are running UVX Cookieplone and then running Copier using this UVX Copier, this long command, and it asks some questions, and depending on that, creates those configurations for us. And like I asked before, what about the deployment of this? So as I said before, we are using GitLab for this. So how we do this with GitLab? How we plug everything so that the release process or the image building process works on GitLab? We created a pipeline in GitLab that is pretty much the same that the one that Cookieplone provides with GitHub Actions. We configured 3 steps for each frontend and backend. The first one ran the initial checks like the linting. So we run make lint, which is already in the makefile of the backend and of the frontend. Then we run the tests with make test, both for backend and frontend. And then we run the make build image for backend and frontend, so the Docker image is built. In this last step, in GitLab CI, we also tag the images with the latest tag, and we push them back to the container registry that GitLab also provides. so that they are ready in case that we want to tag them and deploy them. We just have to download them and add the tag, and we don't have to rebuild them once and again. We need to configure also GitLab to make this work, because we are using the standard the GitLab.com hosting. We don't self-host our GitLab, but in case we were doing that, we just had to change some URLs there, and it would work, I think. Regarding the configuration that we have in GitLab.com, we don't use GitLab provided shared runners. We host our own. We have several virtual machines running the runner. We have configured those runners to use and also the pipeline to use the Docker in Docker service that is required. Okay, I'm not an expert on this, but what my colleagues tell me is that this is required in order the GitLab job to be able to build Docker images while itself is running in Docker, something like that. We also changed our way to develop the project, so we do the development in a non-main branch. We mainly call it develop. This is the idea that we took from the EA when we were working there. So we do the development in the develop branch. We create a merge request or a pull request, name it, and at that time the pipeline is activated and it's run in all the steps that I previously explained. When the build is green and the merge request is merged, another pipeline is executed where the new version number is calculated and the images are pushed back, and the Docker images are tagged with the correct version number and are pushed back to the registry. In order to make all this work, sometimes we need to modify also each of the repositories, because the repositories are private for each of the clients. So we need to create deploy keys so that we have an SSH key that can download and upload the changes that it makes that the release process makes during the CI, like changing the version number, for instance. We need to create also deploy tokens so that the servers can connect to the registry, to the GitLab registry, in order to download the images and start them. We also had to slightly modify the Docker files to build the backend image, because sometimes we use developed versions or GitLab clones of some project, that non-developed project. So we need that not only in the development phase, but also in the Docker image building phase, we need that the Docker service accesses the GitLab repository and that clones the code. So we need to slightly modify the mount type of the Docker process. And we need to also do some changes with the SSH key management in pipelines, because our sysadmin was checking some strange things there, so we need to modify some issues there. Okay, so with the images built and released on GitLab's container registry, we need to deploy them to the server. I said back in 2022 in Namur, and also during our Volto and Classic talk, that we were testing the automatic deployment thing. We are not there yet. We like to evolve, but not to do a revolution inside in our company and with our colleagues. So we are testing right now the working of this whole pipeline, and perhaps in the future we will think on deploying them automatically. So right now we SSH to the server, and we have there the repository of the project cloned. So we just go to the deploy folder, and we have a make file there where we can run a make upgrade, and it will download the new version of the images. It will stop the existing containers, and we'll start the new version, the new ones. We also have some other utility commands there, like stopping the whole stack and restarting everything, because when we usually deploy our changes, we usually only deploy the backend and the frontend, and we don't change Nginx configuration every day. So yeah, some utility commands there to make everything work. So as an example, this is an example of what we deploy for each of our projects. Some bits are optional, but we use Caddy to do the TLS termination. Nginx to do the proxying. We could remove it in the earlier feature, but right now we keep that. In the biggest projects, we deploy Varnish for the front end and for the back end, and then we have the front end, the back end, and the CO server. Yes, we are not using real storage. We are using CO. Yeah, you can blame me, but yeah, that's our story. And this is how more or less the services that we deploy in a single Docker compose. So we don't use, we just deploy things using the Docker compose. So for future improvements on this pipeline, we are right now testing to add to the pipeline a script that starts the Docker containers and calls or calls curl or .uget to the OK endpoint that we have both in Volto and in front end and back end, so that we can check the health of the health check of the containers. And we are also testing log files for the backend, both using pip or using UV. We have an early testing with this, and it looks like it works, but we need to work on more, because yeah, we want to have the same versions that we get when we develop our projects in the phase where we build the Docker images. It's the same that we had previously with build out and this picked versions thing, that we want to have something similar with pip and UV, and we saw that the log files are the way to go. So yeah, these are more or less the future improvements that we have on mind for the coming weeks and months. So that was my talk and my explanation. I hope that it helped someone, or at least it was for me a way to explain what we do with Cookieplone right now. So thank you.
Thank you. And then the questions. At least bring the mic over there.
Hi. My question is regarding upgrades, and how are you managing a Plone upgrade and the Cookieplone template upgrade?
So glad I know.
Yeah, thank you for having that question, but Eriko is leaving. No. No. Right now we have like 8 projects using this approach, and recently I had to upgrade them, and we upgraded them manually. The Cookieplone template, I mean. And also last week we upgraded them to 613, to Plone 613, and we upgraded them manually. So right now it's manual work.
Is it a lot of work? Because we are thinking also to migrating to Cookieplone, but
Upgrading between Plone versions is not a big work. It's just to change the dependency in the PyProject TOML. But upgrading the Cookieplone template, it can have a bit of work depending on how many changes Eriko introduces in the templates. But yeah. Right now they are pretty stable.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Did you also look into MX Make and MX Stack, because that is what I am using now, and Is also Cookieplone.
We are using Mixdev because the Cookieplone template uses Mixdev for the development phase of backend, but not Mixmake for building. No, we are not using.
Or deploying also. No.
No, we haven't checked that.
You also mentioned the thing that deployment keys and everything. So one of the approaches we have chosen before was always the push approach, that we as the organization on a change push to the servers. But also there is the pull approach like Argo CD, Flux and so on. Have you ever tried that as a possibility to also make a separate of concerns?
Right now, we haven't checked any options on that. We were thinking on the push approach, but we haven't done anything else on that matter yet.
Any other questions? Okay. Let's give an applause to Mikel.
Thank you.